welcome to the Food for Data interview series season 2. We'll be sitting down with leaders in the data and analytics industry in a thought-provoking discussion to chat through their experiences and gain insights into the challenges that they may have faced and how they have overcome these. Hope you enjoy. In today's mini interview, we'll be sitting down with Krzysztof, who is the Analytics Director at Delivery Hero, and discussing how he has built out his team from scratch. So hello, Krzysztof. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Great. So I know about your background a little bit and how you got to where you are with Delivery Hero, but could you tell our audience a bit about your role and what you do for the business?
Yeah, so my role is Director of Analytics. I'm working in Delivery Hero Central team, and I'm responsible for the vendor side of analytics. So to be specific, I'm working on the restaurant side. We are a central team, which means we are gathering data and analyzing and using data from all the entities around the world for Delivery Hero.
Amazing, amazing. And I suppose we spoke around a few topics of what you'd like to discuss in this series today, but one that really seemed to come across in the previous meetings is how you build out how you have built out the data team at Delivery and how you've got the team to where they need to be today. So when you joined the business, what would you say are the key topics that you had to resolve before getting into hiring?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question. And I would say my situation was a little bit specific. So when I joined the business, the team did not really exist. So I was building the team from scratch. But obviously, before jumping into building a team, you have to have some considerations. And I would say my thinking is, do not jump into actions before you understand. And with data, there is a lot of understanding to be done. So first of all, I would say the most important probably for building a data team is understanding the stakeholders and understanding the needs of stakeholders. So what does the business need and how does the business can get value from the data team altogether? Because ultimately the data is a broad topic, right? So you can have multiple appliances of data from, I don't know, business analytics, data analytics, product analytics, data science, and so on, right? So there are different applications. And then getting to have this understanding tremendously helps, right? Secondly, the company exists for many years already, which means you have to understand the status quo. So what is the data structure? What are the databases used? What are the tables? What do they contain? And what do they not contain? If the data is ordered or messy or whatever is there. The same goes for, I don't know, reporting suite, dashboarding suite, any processes around data engineering and so on. And lastly, before jumping into hiring, I would say it's actually important to have a vision where do you want to be, right? Because if we don't have it, then it's just a random picking people, which is not the greatest option.
And I suppose there has to be, I know you've talked around a few things there, but there has to be a strategy put in place, I suppose, when it comes to any sort of recruitment, really. Where would you put your focus first?
Where to put the focus? I think before going into hiring, having a plan, where would you like to have a team in 3, 6, 9, 12 months, or even longer, depending on the company. I think it's essential because sometimes we lose it. We are saying, okay, I want to hire a new data analyst or new product analyst. Okay, but what's the grander vision? And without it, it's a little bit tricky to build a team in a proper way. As an example, I would say, for me, for example, I consider myself a generalist. If I'm a generalist, I want to hire first specialists because they will allow me to build the foundation of the data analytics faster. If you are a specialist, I would consider at the very beginning, you would like to hire some generalists to help you craft the vision and craft overall let's say systems and processes for the team. So this is the first thing. Second thing where I think the focus needs to be put is actually on the recruitment process itself, right? Because Again, jumping into recruitment without having the process set up is not really an easy way, and recruitment is usually a little bit difficult. Fortunately, Delivery Hero, I think, has those processes figured out already, so they are fairly stable. And thirdly, I would say try to keep your team balanced in terms of skill set, in terms of personality. And by balanced, I mean also diverse. So don't go very narrow one direction, but be broad in who are you looking for, and also be persistent in getting top talent. It's not easy to hire the best people, and sometimes you can feel, okay, I have just 5 candidates, none of them seem very good, but then, okay, I need to figure something out. But I would try to be persistent and say, okay, maybe we need to refine the ad, maybe we need to take a look on the skill set needed, or maybe we just need to broaden our search and look for people that are really, we are feeling that they are really fitting the team, rather than getting random people and hoping that okay, they might fit to the team or not.
It makes sense. And I suppose some may say that data engineers are the core part of a data analytics team. However, I suppose every person has a part to play to be adding value. What would you say is, or what would you see is the most important? It's a very difficult question.
I would fully agree that data engineers are really the core part, because without proper data, there is no proper analytics, right? So garbage in, garbage out, as they say. But ultimately, we are living in a world where big data is much more proliferated, and there is more and more data. So we have more sources and we collect more data. And with this, I would say both data engineering roles and analytics engineering roles are becoming more important, because it's not so easy to come up with a good insight, or with a good dashboard, or with a good report or data product altogether, if the data is not properly processed. And by properly processed, I mean there should be layers of data that actually allow different groups of users to use this data efficiently, reliably, and so on. Ultimately, I think what is the most important thing in terms of data engineering is not only data engineering, I would say overall data roles, is what we are trying to build is the trust for data, right? Trust towards analytics community, trust towards data science community, but especially trust towards product managers and business users altogether, right? So if they trust the data, then they can trust our insights, they can trust our recommendations. But the trust is a very tricky thing, right? Because you need to consistently keep reliable data source. You need to keep a reliable process that is not breaking, the data is not missing, the data points are not contradicting each other, and so on. So it's not as easy as they say, but I would say this is the ultimate goal.
Okay, and I suppose we both know recruitment can have its flops. Not all candidates are successful. We've spoke previously that those data engineering roles can be a struggle, which I have noticed with a number of organizations, but the technical space is evolving, and you could be looking for a niche skill set. So what other struggles would you say you found when it's come to hiring?
I would say there's many of those, and this is not only for data engineers, right? Data engineering, I would say, is specific because, as I mentioned before, it's a little bit proliferating, and there is a lot of data engineering openings versus not so many candidates with a specialist skill set. So this is sometimes a bottlenecking process, especially in some regions. But altogether, recruiting for all data positions has its struggles and also has its flops. I would say there are a couple. One, and maybe very obvious to me at least, but maybe not to some candidates, is that the technical roles usually require the technical checkups. Some candidates try to cheat on this, right? On those tests and so on, right? And you can cheat in different ways. You can either get your friend, or you can just Google internet or whatever. I would say it's just a waste of time for both of the parties to cheat, because first of all, I would say it's fairly easy to detect, especially if you are copying the code from somewhere. And secondly, ultimately, if you don't know what you are doing, it will come very obvious in your next 1 to 3 months in your probation period. So maybe you will land a job if you are passing through next stages, which is also difficult because there are obviously technical interviews after the test, right? So in my opinion, it doesn't make any sense. That's the first one. Secondly, is for some roles, I would say there are two sides. For some roles, there are just so many candidates that it's very difficult to choose. And the reason that there are so many candidates is either the requirements for the role are written in like they're just too broad, I would say. And secondly, people are randomly applying to different positions that they may not even be interested in. And I also do believe this is not the greatest strategy. I understand that if you are looking for a job, you are trying to get as many interviews as possible, but ultimately landing a job that you are not really interested in is just a waste of time for both of the parties, right? There's also other side of it, which is the roles that there are just not enough candidates, right? And then it's mostly on recruiter side to step back and think it over a little bit and think, okay, maybe I have just put too strict requirements. Maybe it's better to broaden it a little bit, broaden the search and get better pipeline of candidates, and then maybe 1 or 2 skills can be taught on the job, right? Can be upskilled. I'm a big believer that in general, it would be great if we can teach candidates and grow candidates with the company, right? So ideal situation is you have a candidate and he learns on the job and then he grows with the job, right? So he acquires new skill set, he trains and so on. This is unfortunately not always possible because for some roles you are, for example, you're looking for an engineer, you're looking already for a senior or staff engineer because you need to have the job done from day one. But overall, I think the team should be balanced. So if you have the possibility to, hire more junior people and then train them, I think it's a great opportunity both for the company, but also for the people who are joining the company because they have a feeling that there is a growth ahead of them. Obviously, for senior engineers and for staff engineers or for senior analysts, the growth path should be there as well, right? But obviously the expectation is different. If you are hiring a senior person, you are expecting, okay, this person can be performing from day one, which is also a tricky thing because usually every company has its own culture, every company has its own problems, and there needs to be both sufficient time for onboarding, but also sufficient support during the onboarding. So getting having this expectation that the person will be producing a code from day one is a little bit tricky because ultimately I think we should allow this time for a person to sink in the company culture, to get to know people, to get to know the standards, to get to know the code, and then only then start bringing value to the company.
No, 100%. And I suppose when reflecting back on the team that you have already in place, what were the qualities that they showcased where you knew that they had to be a part of Delivery Hero?
That's a very good question, and this is the question I'm always asking myself when I'm interviewing a candidate, right? And it's also not an easy answer, right? Because people are very different. So first of all, Delivery Hero altogether is a very international company, which I think is great. And I would, if you have the possibility as a recruiter to do that, I would very much advise to bet on diversity and having people from different cultures, different backgrounds, different experiences, and so on. Because I think it brings enormous value to the team itself. It stimulates a good discussion, it stimulates creativity, and it stimulates viewing a problem and solution from different perspective, which I think is always beneficial. For Delivery Hero, I would say this part comes naturally because actually we are hiring internationally, and because of that, the pool of candidates is very diverse, right? So this is the first thing I would mention. The second thing is probably whenever I get a new person in the team, I would like to understand what this person actually is bringing new to the team, right? So it's not enough to, I don't know, feel be good at the test and the interview, but I would really appreciate if there is a new skill set that can be utilized in the team, maybe utilized at work, but also this is a way for teaching, for learning other team members, right? So if there is a diverse skill set, there's a chance for other team members to grow into this specific skill that this one person has. It can be different stuff. So for example, if we are talking about I don't know, we are talking about data analysts, it's nice if there's some, I don't know, ML or engineering background behind it. Or if we are talking about the product analyst, maybe this product analyst was a product manager before, or maybe he did some projects that are not strictly product analysts, but did something else, which is actually very useful and can be also utilized in our organization, right? So I would say this is the second thing. And the last but not least, I'm a big believer in communication and teamwork, right? And this is like, I'm not sure if forgotten skill, but I do believe that many candidates believe that the skill set and the technical side of the skill set is enough to get to the company. For me, knowing that the person will fit in the team and will be good collaborator is very essential, I would say. So probably depending on the organization, but in my organization, this is a very big organization with with quite diverse and large number of stakeholders, which means the communication skills and ability to teamwork is never underestimated, I would say. So I'm looking into this very much, and I think so far so good.
So far, so good. That's good. Good to hear. It's been really interesting to get your insights today on your journey to developing the team you have at Delivery Hero. So probably ask now for potential future candidates and other organizations from this interview, what would you like to be the biggest takeaway from what we've spoke about today?
The biggest takeaway for the candidates, I would say there are a couple of things. I know also from my perspective that, you know, landing a job and looking for a job is very daunting and difficult job itself, right? It can be very demotivating. It can be difficult at times, especially if you are looking for a long time. So I would maybe, not sure if this is related to what I said before, but I would maybe have a couple of advice there to the candidates that are looking for a job, right? So first of all, don't give up and be consistent in your efforts, right? Because I think consistency, resilience is very important in looking for a job. If you are sending, 100 emails and there is a couple of interviews, but out of those interviews, there's nothing, just stay on track, do it on a weekly, daily basis. I know it's a little bit cliche and everyone says it, but there are different reasons for being rejected, right? So candidates take rejection very personally, but sometimes, you know, you apply to the job, but there is another candidate who is already in the last stage and he's actually getting the job, or something changes in the company and the profile is suddenly changes, or there are freezes, or there is one skill set that is missing. So there can be multitude of arguments why you are getting rejected towards this job, but it's not that you are a bad or you cannot land the job. It's just this particular position at this particular time is not fitting your candidacy, right? So stay on track and keep going. Secondly, what I would say is seek for feedback, right? Especially, and I would call it, there are probably two ways to get feedback, right? So first of all, get feedback from recruiters. I would say, especially if you're landing, you know, third, fourth interview for the same position, you are feeling that you are in the last 2, 3, 5 candidates. I think then this is the moment that you can get a valuable feedback. And if you are not getting it directly after the interviews and someone is saying, okay, you have been rejected, still try to come back and ask for the reason, because it can fuel your next search for your job, and I think it could be very beneficial for you. But secondly, also reach to your network, reach to your friends, reach to some forums in getting improvement of your, I don't know, CV or guidance, right? Internet is full of people that are really willing to help and have the knowledge and experience to do that. And thirdly, I would say, if you are sending out your CVs, if you are applying to different companies and you are consistently rejected, you are rejected on the first phase, or you are, I don't know, failing the test, you have to step back a little, right? So if you failed 1, 2, 3, 100 times doing the same thing, and you are expecting, you know, doing 101 the same thing, but expecting a different result that you will get accepted, this is the moment that maybe you have to step back and say, okay, maybe my experience and my CV are not really fit for that position, right? Maybe I need to apply for more junior position, or maybe I want to switch. I was a product manager before, and now I want to land a senior analyst position. This may not happen. Maybe if you want to switch your path, you want to become analyst, start low. With your knowledge, you will probably get promoted very quickly. But you need to maybe start from scratch, right? Or maybe you were data analyst and also applying already for senior product analyst position is not the best case. So step back and think it over, what to improve. Is it me? Is it my CV? Is it my communication skills or something else? But rather than going over and over with the same approach, just pivot, be flexible a little, and again, be resilient and persistent.
Amazing. I think that's some great advice for candidates out there that are definitely looking for their next role. And thank you for being with us today, Krzysztof. It's been really great to have you on the show and getting your insights. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. Take care.
Welcome to the Food for Thought series, where we will be sitting down with current thought leaders in the data analytics space to offer you a valuable insight into how they run their practices and their experiences. In today's main interview, we'll be sitting down with Richard, who is the head of data science and systems at Pilgrim's Food Masters, and he will be discussing the challenges and ways round of delivering a data strategy in a smaller organisation. So welcome, Richard. Hello.
Hi, Natalia.
So let's set the scene for our audience today. Could you tell them a little bit about yourself and the organisation that you work for?
Yeah, sure. So maybe if we kind of go all the way back, I originally kind of graduated as an engineer a long time ago. And my first job was in the railway industry, in a railway maintenance company. And I somehow, by luck or happenstance, ended up being put into a team that was responsible for essentially building an Internet of Things platform way before anyone was using that terminology. So we were kind of taking sensor data from trains, we were analysing it in near real time and using that to predict when we thought they were about to break down in order to essentially save money and reduce maintenance costs. And kind of that's how I happened into the data space. And from there, it's been really, really varied in big and small organisations. Consultant predominantly in their energy and utility clients, so helping those clients move to predictive maintenance, use data to make more evidence-based decisions on when they build assets, maintain assets, that kind of stuff, and helping them build and recruit their own internal teams to do that rather than use consultants. And after that, I then went to work for the National Trust as their head of data science, which is a really interesting role, such a complex and broad organisation. That's where I first got interested in customer data and marketing analytics. And actually really got interested in how do you use data to help drive a culture change in how people use data to make better, more evidence-based decisions that improve the direction and goals for that company. So it really got me involved in data literacy. And then from there, I went to work for one of the UK's largest apprenticeship training companies, with a kind of a real focus being on how do I kind of take that data literacy training and knowledge that I learned from the National Trust, and how do I use that in an apprenticeship company to use that internally to help our staff become more informed about how they improve educational outcomes for our students, and also how do we kind of put a wrapper around that and offer that as a service to their clients for students in other organizations to kind of become more evidence and data driven in their work. And one of the things we really did there, which was really successful, was we built and launched our own data apprenticeship training program for people in many other organizations, particularly in like the retail, hospitality and care sectors. as you said, my current role is head of data science and systems at Pilgrim Food Masters, and within Pilgrims, I work within what they call their accelerator business unit. So Pilgrims itself is a massive, big global multinational company. Pilgrim Food Masters is kind of the UK and Ireland equivalent of that. Got 3 business units really. One that does meats, so refrigerators, Richmond sausages, like sliced meats, those kinds of products. We've got a chilled meals business. So I guess if you go to a supermarket and you buy a chilled or frozen ready meal, that probably is made by Pilgrim's Food Masters. And then the third business unit, which is the one that I work in, is called accelerators. And that's really where Pilgrims puts its scale up and startup business units, and they kind of grow them to a certain size before they can move into the other business units. And at the moment, there are 2 brands within that business unit that I support. So there's Rollover, which are a hot food to go company, and they make 75% of their revenue by selling hot dogs to other businesses who then sell it onto a consumer. So like stadiums, arenas. So they sell hot dogs to like Manchester United, for example, and they then obviously sell it on match days and at events. And then the other business unit that I support is called Oakhouse Foods, who are a frozen food delivery company who sell direct to consumer. So they would sell frozen ready meals directly to generally older consumers, so that they've always got food and they to hand, or customers that tend to struggle to like prepare and cook their own meals. So my role, I guess, within Pilgrim's Food Masters is to support those 2 businesses on the IT and data front. So I can see my role as having kind of 3 key components. The first is I sit on the leadership team for those businesses. So it's really working with my peers kind of across the leadership team to help make commercial decisions that grow those businesses, bring in more customers, manage costs, those kinds of things. On a day-to-day level, a functional level, I manage the IT and data teams for those organizations. So whilst we're part of this massive kind of global business, actually we're run fairly independently. We've got our own systems and processes and IT teams and data teams. So I manage those teams and work with make sure that our internal stakeholders have the tools, the products, the insight that they need to do their day-to-day jobs. And my third role kind of across the business units is just to kind of champion data-driven decision-making in everything that we do, not just within my business, but across the wider Pilgrims business too. So a lot of coaching, supporting other people in other teams to help them get their own insights from their data and help them make business decisions with what they're doing.
Amazing. So you've done a lot, Richard.
Really varied.
And so like in the recent years, so you mentioned you've worked for, larger companies and more smaller size. What do you think are the main differences of implementing a data strategy in a smaller organization compared to those larger ones?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. I think in some ways the challenges or the questions, I guess, that big and small organizations are trying to answer are quite similar and quite often the same. So when I was at the National Trust, for example, we'd be asking questions like, how do I empower our people to make decisions based on data? How do we improve data governance so we've got a single version of the truth that's accessible through like common reports and dashboards? And how do we fix all the legacy stuff that we've got so that we've got like a scalable, sustainable kind of architecture going forward? And those are all exactly the same questions I can talk to my business stakeholders and my peers about every day in my organizations, my 2 scale-ups I support as well. So I think sometimes the questions are similar, but I guess the how you do that can be quite different. And kind of the 3, I think there are probably 3 key areas where kind of I've seen like a big difference between kind of big and small organizations. I think the first is just speed. Like the smaller organizations, and maybe this is a factor that I'm kind of working with scale-ups at the moment, the smaller organizations just work at a much higher velocity than larger organizations. That's not just in terms of like decision making, that definitely is faster. There's not many committees and approval boards that you have to go through. It is definitely decision making is faster. But I'd also say that like new business opportunities just emerge more quickly and you respond to them much more quickly.
Yeah.
Like literally a month ago, one of the businesses I support got a call from a potential partner wanting to work together on new products. A week later, we met them. A week after that, we'd agreed to do it. A week after that, the solution was at a trade show, and a week after that, we had an MVP in a customer site delivering the new product. So I can't imagine that kind of pace happening in certainly the larger organizations that I've worked in, but definitely happened here. And for a data team and an IT team, kind of what does that mean? It generally means that if someone's kind of trying to work on those opportunities, then they don't want to put in a ticket. They don't want to then have to write the business justification. We're working on it. They don't want to wait for your task to be prioritized, allocated to an analyst who then works on it for them. Kind of prioritization and that allocation of analyst time needs to happen almost in real time, and much more agility kind of associated with kind of how those teams work to deliver. I think the second area where there is a difference is just budgets. Like smaller organizations generally have smaller budgets, so you have to be much more creative in how you deliver your data strategy. One of the organizations I remember working for years ago spent well over £100,000 on consultants just building the data strategy. That's let alone implementing it. That's just going through the process and building the document that contains it all in. I'd love to have that much money just to implement my data strategy right now. So you do have to be much more creative about how do you implement, where do you get the resources to help you do that, what are you implementing, and then if you're doing something, if you're making an investment, it's got to tick off 2, 3, 4 things all in one go, so you're kind of getting a bigger bang for your buck.
Yeah, and how do you find those right people when you go out? Like, how do you find the right people?
Yeah, recruitment's definitely a challenge. I think it's a challenge generally across the industry. Everyone talks about it, but I think in a smaller organization, it's also a challenge because quite often what I'm looking for is a generalist. So people with kind of T-shaped skills. And we don't have big teams. We don't, like, I remember, I look back longingly sometimes to the days of my big organizations where I had a data engineering team and an analytics team and a data science team and a data governance, all these like specialist functions that reported into you. And right now I've got 3 people. My data engineer does analysis, my analyst does a bit of data engineering and data governance. It's kind of really cross-functional. And so what I'm looking to hire is people that can work as a generalist, I guess, across multiple functions rather than a specialist. And those skills are quite hard to find. It often does feel like, and I remember I speak to recruiters quite a lot, it feels like they tell me quite a lot I'm looking for a unicorn, which generally I am. And because I'm a small company, I generally can't afford them as well. So
I hear that all the time.
It's like I can imagine you do. So just finding the right person is really challenging. And also, we're a small company. We've not a well-known household brand, so we don't really have much brand awareness of what we do as a company, let alone us doing data, trying to find the right people. I remember working at the National Trust and we'd stick a job advert live for a data analyst, don't really promote it, and you'd have 100 people just because of the logo recognition. We depressingly don't get that anymore. So a few things I've done that seem to really help. One is I spend a lot of time looking internally for internal people. Like, I don't just mean like writing a job advert and sticking it internally or sending an email around saying, oh, we've got this new job, please apply for it. Like, it's like really trying hard to find internal people with the skills and attitude that could work in this kind of role. So much benefit in doing that as well, I found. So like internal people, they know the organization already. They know the key decision makers. Like, they know our processes, or most of them, they know what the data looks like. And they know the culture, they know how to get things done in the organization. Whereas if you're bringing someone in, you have to train all of that. And actually, I'm finding that it's actually harder to train all of that and how things work and how to get things done than it is to train the technical skills. So spend a lot of time trying to make sure that our internal people have got the right skills, even if they're not in my team. So in future, they could at least become confident doing data and analysis themselves. I think you do have to become a bit of a brand ambassador as well, and not just for your company, I think, but just your personal brand, and kind of making sure that people know who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and that it's really interesting and varied, and there's real benefit to kind of working in your company or working for you as a person. So things like articles on LinkedIn, which I hate doing, but begrudgingly do it every so often, but like writing articles, writing blogs, attending conferences, presenting, those kinds of things which demonstrate, essentially, if someone Googles you, your name will come up at some point, so they can find that you're doing something interesting in this space. I think that's kind of the way that I think about it. So building a presence means that people want to work for you. So you're not always trying to
100%.
kind of fish in an empty pool. Kind of the last thing I really focus on, and I've kind of mentioned it a little bit already, is I don't really recruit for technical skills. Like, it's nice if they have them, but I recruit for attitude. I think if people are good communicators, I like to have good impact with my stakeholders and have a general level of curiosity about how the world works, or about customers, or about people or employees, then that's the hardest stuff to train for. So I try and recruit for that, which and then if I have to, I'll train like coding skills later. So and in my last organization, which to be fair was an apprenticeship training company, a quarter of my team were all doing a data apprenticeship to increase their technical skills. We didn't recruit for that at all. I definitely recruited for impact and attitude, and it made it much easier to find people. And the people that I found were able to hit the ground running faster because they could build relationships, they could impact stakeholders, they could build those soft skills, which are really hard skills actually.
Yeah, they are. You kind of forget, like, you find that a lot of companies, they're so focused on the technical side that they forget about, suppose, that stakeholder engagement, that personality, that attitude that you were just talking about. And those are hard skills in themselves. But
yeah, they really definitely are. And I think in a data role, most data people aren't the people making day-to-day business decisions. They're a bit like a business partner, I guess, like supporting someone who is making a decision. So obviously the quality analysis needs to be good and delivered in a timely way. But probably more importantly, the person that you're delivering the work to has to trust you, and has to have confidence in you as an analyst, as a person, as a business person working in that organization. And you can do brilliant analysis, but if they don't trust you, they won't use it. So building relationships is like the most important thing for me.
Building relationships is key. And how would you go about, so just going back to speed and budget, how do you go about delivering that data strategy when you have to think about these sort of challenges? Sorry,
Natalia, you dropped out there slightly on the question.
Okay. So, well, it's all right. So just going back to the challenge, the talk about speed and budget in a smaller organization, when you're like delivering your data strategy, is there any challenges that you face when it comes to those two areas as such?
Yeah, definitely. So if we'd maybe take speed, I think for me the key to speed is agility, and I don't mean like agile in the kind of Kanban, backlog, sprint planning kind of way. All of that stuff's brilliant. We use it as well. I mean like agility in the, on a sixpence, you can increase your velocity or you can change direction like without hesitation. And that's more of a culture and way of working rather than like a set of processes that you have. So trying to build that culture within the team to be agile, not flexible or dynamic, whatever the word is that you use, I think is really important. And I think in smaller organizations, I probably think that's slightly easier. I think they're more used to working that way anyway for their kind of business outcomes. They're more used to looking for new and different opportunities. They're smaller, so there's fewer people, fewer committees, fewer decisions, fewer committees to go through to make decisions. And like the line of sight between like an individual contributor in a team and senior management is smaller. So being able to kind of see the impact of the work you're doing more immediately on customer outcome is faster generally. So I think it is probably easier to be more agile in a smaller company. But then building that culture that enables that to happen is really important. And that's kind of especially true in the data, in kind of a data team. And I think one of the ways that kind of manifests, I think, in a data team is that they focus on giving the answer that's good enough. Like 80% of the solution is good enough for most people to make a decision. 100% of the right solution delivered 3 weeks late is too late. You've not helped anyone in that case. So focusing on kind of what's the 80-20 rule is kind of the way that one of the ways that I think about agility and kind of increasing speed within a data team. I think on kind of the budget sense, I think that how do you get more with less or with not very much, I think is is really difficult. And I think there are loads of tools out there. There are loads of ways in which you can do that. I think for me, actually, one of the things that I found really interesting working in a smaller organization is trying to link the data strategy back to business value. I think if you ever Google or get consultants in to talk about your data strategy, they'll all talk about kind of linking it back to business value. And I thought I was quite good at this. Like in my last few companies, I can share with you like loads of amazing data strategy documents where I've kind of had, oh, this is a business strategy. It had like 3 pillars associated with it. So we'll do work that attaches to those pillars so we can like trace back, like we're doing this, which means that we're going to get more customers, which means we're going to do whatever. Did loads of things like that. And even doing that, I still really struggle to connect sometimes with like executive leaders in terms of getting buy-in into that data strategy.
Yeah.
And which is really interesting because I thought I was linking it all back to business value. And I think what I've kind of discovered in this current role, working and being on the leadership team, is that I wasn't using the right language. Like the leadership teams in lots of organizations talk in the language of P&L, balance sheets, that kind of terminology, which isn't common outside of finance departments in organizations. So what's been really interesting kind of here at Pilgrims is now I know that's how my leadership team talk, and that's how my peers talk to each other. It's taken me a bit of a head stretch to understand some of those terms, to be honest. Then it'd be much easier for me to say, actually, we're going to build a churn model. Yeah, that'll link back to retention, which is one of our strategic pillars. But actually, how does that link back to P&L? How does that benefit the balance sheet? Being able to articulate it in that way has actually just made it much easier to just get funding, because I can more easily demonstrate in the language that the business is used to using kind of what I'm trying to deliver. So yeah, I think budget is a challenge. There is less money available in smaller companies, but there's a lot you can do with what you have. But being able to speak the right language and make sure the value is spoken in the terminology that your leadership team use is so important, because that seems to unlock extra money that you didn't think was ever available.
Amazing. And I suppose we can finishing off there, what would you say to kind of smaller organizations? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think if you're a small organization thinking, how do I get started? You probably already have. Like there'll be someone somewhere in your organization doing something with data. You might not know about it. They're probably not doing it in a strategic way that links back to something that might be a priority, but there's someone doing something somewhere. So I guess the first step is find out who they are. Try and figure out what they're doing. Try and understand what they're doing. You don't have to understand everything they're doing, but at least understanding why they're doing it is important. Make sure they're supported, and actually make sure you give them ownership, so that they kind of really clear that they're not just doing that as a side project. At the end of their desk, they own like data or analytics or the outcome from it for whatever part of the business lies. Make it kind of that kind of roles and responsibilities really clear. You probably are doing something, as I've said. The second thing kind of linked to that is you don't need to break the bank to get started. Like, as I say, you're probably already doing something anyway. And if you're not, start small, low cost, keep it super simple. Like it's so easy, especially with technology. I think you alluded to earlier. It's so easy to get so complicated so quickly. There is no need to do that. just start super simple and keep focused on the benefit, the business benefit. So whether that's increasing profit, increasing revenue, whatever it is, link it back to that, demonstrate that, and then do the next thing, and then do the next thing, and then do the next thing. Just take how do you eat an elephant? It's like one piece at a time, I guess. And I guess the third thing I kind of suggest is focusing on finding the right people and skills. Like you probably don't need to get overexcited and go and hire a bunch of data scientists. In fact, you definitely don't need to go and hire a bunch of data scientists. I'd definitely say start internally. Look at the people you have. Find people who already work for your business, who are passionate about making a difference, are interested in data and analytics, and just make sure you support them as much as you can, whether that's the right training, coaching, mentoring, so that they can get going on the job straight away with what you already have and what they already know. At some point, you might need to hire an external person or an agency or recruit an external hire. But all they're doing is coming in to help professionalize what you've already started. So put a bit more structure around the work that you're already doing and put a bit more discipline around all that passion that you've already unlocked with your internal team. So finding the right person for that will be much easier if you know what you've already got, where it is and what they're doing, and what they're capable of doing, because then you kind of know what gaps you need to fill. So start with what you have, build out from there slowly, focusing on value and the people you already have. It can be what I'd recommend.
Amazing advice, amazing. Well, thank you for joining us today, Richard. It was great to speak to you.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the Food for Thought series, where we'll be sitting down with current thought leaders in the data and analytics space to offer you a valuable insight into how they run their practices and their experiences. In today's mini interview, we'll be sitting down with Hazel, who is the head of data insights at Bella and Duke, and we'll be getting Hazel's insights on how organizations can quickly demonstrate value from data quality and how you can really gain that stakeholder buy-in. So welcome to the interview series, Hazel.
Hi.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
It's okay. Let's set the scene for our audience today. Tell them a little bit about yourself and what Bella and Duke are all about.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Hazel, like say, head of data insights at Bella and Duke. I joined the business around 18 months ago to look after all things data in our business. I guess I earned my data stripes in large organizations, so background in working for large energy companies, the government, so really big organizations, and took the leap to a startup just as we are in that growth phase from startup to scale up, or teenager to adult is how we often talk about it. Bella and Duke, we are the UK's leading raw pet food subscription company. I guess the special thing about us is our users, our pets, who actually aren't our customers. So the big thing we want to do is we want to understand our pets better to help their humans make the right decisions for them. And I guess my role within Bella and Duke is, as I said, everything data. So I came in to establish and lead the data function, and fundamentally unlock the goldmine of customer data that we have as a direct consumer business, to drive our continued growth. As that new function in an SME, we have multiple challenges. Lots of ones that were new to me as moving from a big organization to an SME. But I guess, yeah, one of the ones is, like you say, the one we're here to discuss today. So that's sort of how to rapidly demonstrate value from your data, prove the value in your data function, and ultimately get that buy-in, get that budget to keep growing and use the data. So yeah, exciting.
Amazing. Definitely go check out Bella and Duke, anyone watching. It's a great organization. So you've mentioned to me that Bella and Duke work in an agile environment across the business. So have you seen any challenges as such when adopting to this new way of working across the company?
Yeah, definitely. I guess like all changes, there's always challenges. So I guess the good thing was Agile was already being used quite a lot in our tech team, and then saw the benefit of that and how we could use it in data. And also similarly, we're now starting to explore how we can use it in other teams across the business. I think the biggest challenge is with all change, people and culture is probably the biggest challenge we've had against us. How most people struggle to move away from their comfort zone. So actually, how do you get them to work and think differently is a really big challenge, and just that bit that's always the hardest of how do you get people to adopt that change. I guess the good thing for us is we are founded sort of around the principle of challenging the status quo. one of our brand values is around be the change. So as we're adopting Agile, we sort of lean into that and keep reminding people that that is, you know, what we're founded on. We were founded to challenge the pet food business. So let's take that challenger mindset to how we actually run our teams, do projects, and all of that. Specifically for our data team, I think the biggest challenge around moving to Agile is one of the Agile principles of being done is better than being perfect. You know, so we are naturally precision, all about the precision, all about the accuracy, that actually having to move away from that slightly to actually being 90% right is okay. So that was, again, I guess it's a people and culture thing, is for us to get our mindset sort of around that as a data team to actually adopt that principle. But it's worked really well, and I think being really aware of, we're on that sort of, it's a versioning, getting your head into that product, more product life cycle of, yes, it might not be perfect now, but we're calling this version 1. We'll make it better in version 1.1, 1.2, all of that sort of mindset we sort of try and adopt from our tech colleagues to help us overcome our need for perfection. I think is probably they're the main two challenges I think we've faced so far on that journey.
Okay. And what about the stakeholder buy-in as such? Have you seen any challenges with that, maybe at the beginning, or has this improved, or are you still facing those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think we still face some of them, but I do actually think Agile working has helped us with a lot of our stakeholder buy-in issues. So I guess the biggest thing for me, and I guess probably data people everywhere, is to challenge the misconception that data equals reporting or data equals dashboards. We need to get people to sort of move away from that we're just about statistics view to actually, we can provide you with tools to help you drive business decisions based on data. We're not just about the hindsight. We're about helping you go forwards with that. So Agile has actually really helped us with that stakeholder buy-in. Don't get me wrong, we're still on that journey. We still have it, you know, they still, vast majority of things at the moment we get asked are all about reporting what happened in the past. I think in my mind, I think we'll have made it when people start asking us how can they do something in the future, and sort of where they bring us in the conversation. And I guess along with that is actually we make a lot of effort on stakeholder engagement and stakeholder buy-in. So every time I present about our data maturity roadmap, where we are, and where we're wanting to go. So we always talk about our roadmap to sort of get in their mindset that we're on this product versioning, sort of working our way through. And there's a reason why we're working through each of these items. It is to get us somewhere. So I'd say they definitely, you know, that's definitely helped us. And also just allowed us as a team, you know, we're a really small team. And we don't have the luxury that I've had in the past where I could lean on, you know, really great teams of data engineers, data scientists, other people within the business. As a small team in an SME, we don't have that. We've got the tools. Our biggest issue is always resource. So actually what this has helped us with is progress our priorities. We still have that debate with our stakeholders, like why are we prioritizing a project rather than their BAU or their ad hoc requests? Yeah. We're still on that journey, but actually we do have great buy-in from our stakeholders. I think the fact that we know that, you know, our business used Agile in tech, we know it's working. We've now demonstrated the case that it worked for data. And actually we're now seeing other teams in the business thinking about how they can use Agile principles. So in areas where they previously would have said no. So maybe like the marketing team, I think we're like, oh, we could never work in 2-week sprints. Actually, they're starting to think about, actually for some projects we could, and it would really help us. So I think we're getting there, and there is a shift in our business on changing to that way, which, yeah, we're still on that stakeholder buy-in journey, but it's definitely helped.
No, it sounds like it's going in the right direction for you guys. And
Definitely.
is there any other benefits that you see? I know you've probably talked through a little there. Has there been anything around, you know, that cultural kind of mind shift as well within the team? Has that been quite positive? What other benefits would you say there are?
Yeah, I think I think the stakeholder engagement is actually really the biggest benefit. You know, they're feeling part of the process. They're actually even, I think, probably for the first time ever in my career, excited about what data team are releasing. You know, we constantly get asked, oh, when is this? You know, oh, you're finishing your sprint. Does that mean I get access to it next week? Mm-hmm. So actually that has been a big help in that they're actually buying into what we're doing, and they're excited about what we're doing. I don't think I've ever had someone excited to see a data model until now. Sad to say, but yes, it's true. And I guess it's also been really good, I guess, in terms of pulling teams together. Like I say, they feel part of the process. They don't feel like it's a black box anymore. The data team isn't black boxing anything. We are involving them in that process. And actually for then, us as a data team, we've got quite a lot out of it as well. I think the biggest thing would probably be a sense of achievement. So actually a focused 2-week sprint, it's actually amazing the amount of work you can get completed in that focus, rather than a project sort of dragging on and you feeling like you're not making progress because you're trying to balance that project alongside another project, alongside something else, and all of them seem to take time. Is actually we've got a real sense of achievement out of that. And I guess also that we are building something that's actually useful. So because we're building quite quickly, and because we're doing 2-week sprints with then stakeholder sort of catch-ups and sort of reviews and taking them through what we've done, we get that time to check that we're heading in the right direction. We are building what is still useful for the business. So the business, you know, we work really quickly, we move through things really quick. Priorities change, actually, rather than taking a whole 3 months to deliver something, by quickly just breaking it into 2-week chunks allows us to check we're still building the right thing for people and that it is going to be useful for them. So yeah, it's I guess all wrapped into that sort of sense of achievement, which really encourages you and sort of keeps you going and keeps us ready for the next one.
Amazing. And I suppose, what would you say to organizations that are maybe in the same boat as you are, maybe in that kind of startup phase, scale up? What would you say to them when adapting to this new way of working, or, you know, they're in that position where they're trying to get that stakeholder buy-in? What would be the advice that you'd give?
I mean, in short, I'd say go for it. Like take the leap. It's hard. I mean, that's the hardest thing is taking that leap. I would say probably start small, like really be realistic, and maybe start small. The biggest thing that it helped us with was to help us progress some of our larger projects at the same time as fitting in our BAU and our ad hoc.
Okay.
So actually just picking a really, really small piece of one of the large things that we want to do as a business. So that was, you know, things like building a customer value model, building new attribution, building out customer personas. We actually took our very first sprint was around coming up with roadmaps of how we build each of those models. And that was the whole purpose of that sprint, was actually to spend 2 weeks planning what we would then do next. And actually we achieved more than we thought, because not only did we do that planning, we actually got started on one of them in the 2 weeks. So I think, start small, because it's that age-old one of you're better to under promise, overachieve than the other way around. So definitely start small, take the leap, and it can be something that, like we did that, it was very within our own team, you know, so actually for doing it, we weren't needing to rely on lots of other teams being available. We kept the sprint team really quite small, kept it to our team, proved that actually we could work that way. It worked for us. We could see the benefits, so that then when we got to the next sprint, actually we were confident that actually we could ask other people, you know, and ask them for support and be really honest with them that it works. And yes, you are, like, it won't drag on. You know, it will be the 2 weeks. We've managed to box this time. We've sort of almost proved the case. But yeah, I think just give it a try. I mean, really, what do you have to lose? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And being honest, it doesn't work for everything.
Yeah.
Some projects do need, you know, a full project life cycle. But I think break it down into really small chunks, and give it a go, and just be really clear on what your sprint objective is. You know, so what do you want to achieve by the end of 2 weeks, and just keep focused on that. And yeah, I think you'll be amazed at what you can actually achieve when you really focus and close off all the other distractions. And then I think for us, like, we were really honest as well. So as a small team, the first time we did it, we basically had to remove it, or almost shut ourselves off from the rest of the business. So we made sure that we picked the right time to do it as well. You know, it wasn't a start of the month when we'd all loads of month end reporting to do, or, you know, we things for our boards. We made sure that when we planned in our first one, and actually when we plan in every 2 week sprint, is we plan it at the right time in the month, that if we are focusing on that, we're not harming other areas of the business. And the first time we were actually really ruthless in that we said we would take no ad hoc requests, and we switched off our Slack notifications to everyone outside our team. We just kept it focused on the team. We had warned everyone we would do that. We gave them about a month's warning. We didn't just suddenly go radio silent. But actually, I think just setting everyone's expectations that, you know, we've boxed yourself off for that time. There's a reason, and actually you'll see the value of it at the other end. I think is really important. And yeah, like I say, being honest with people about why you're doing it. It's not that we're sitting for 2 weeks with our feet up, ignoring our Slack messages. It's because actually we are really focused on delivering something that ultimately will be of better value for them as the stakeholder. So yeah, I think just give it a go. Really, you never know what it could be.
There we go. So yeah, I think that's a very good bit of advice, and I think a lot of people in our audience today will really benefit from that as well, as we do have a lot of people that are in those kind of scale-up startup organisations, especially in your industry as well. Yes. So thank you, Hazel. Thank you for taking part in the Food for Thought series. It's been really great having you on today, and yeah, go check out Bello and Duke.
Great. Thanks, Natalia. Thanks for having me. It's been great.
No worries.